Hello and welcome to Spotlight. The guest on today's episode is the incredibly talented singer, composer, and songwriter Chandana Bala Kalyan. She sings Carnatic, Hindustani, Sufi, and jazz. Chandana is known as a vocal gymnast because her voice moves effortlessly across scales. She also has a huge social media following. And in person, she's sweet and simple, as you will soon discover for yourself. Welcome to the show, Chandana.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandhya ji. Such an honor actually to be talking to you. And the first time, of course, we met was for the festival under the Raintree Festival. And I had only interacted with you on the phone. But when I met you in person, I mean, the warmth and the affection that I received from you, I think I will always remember that. You had absolutely, it was like, I mean, you were organizing such a big event. You must have had like 1,000 things on your mind. But the way you kind of welcomed me, the warmth with which you received me, I think that is something that I will always remember. So I'm really honored to be on this show with you. And thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure entirely, Chandana. And I want to thank you again for sharing your beautiful song for Janmashtami. It made the festival so special. And talking about that, I recall that you're one of the artists who got onto social media several years ago, really early on. What prompted you to do that?
Actually, it was not a very, I had been on social media for some time, like I think from 2009 or 10, I had started kind of. And it was at that time just, chatting with friends and connecting with older friends from school and stuff like that. But there also came a time when people started posting, their music and stuff like that. I was not really too much into the recording scene. Like I was not recording material in the studio and presenting videos and stuff like that. And not really working on music videos and stuff like that. This just happened. I actually worked on one particular song. It was for Holi, and I thought I should just do one song, one idea that had come to my mind, and I really didn't have the idea to go to a studio and record it. So I thought I just do a phone recording, and I really practiced it many times because it was so new to me, just even recording a video on the phone. So I think after the third or fourth trial or something, I felt I was happy with it, and that's when it actually started. And the response was pretty overwhelming. It was like I was like, I didn't know how to even respond to that many people commenting and liking it and sharing it, and I think that's where it began. And after that, I've just been posting every. At that time, it was pretty often. In 2018 March, it started. I started posting almost one song a week, and it was very, very well received. After that, I've gradually kind of reduced the number of posts that I do in a month.
That's really wonderful. And I'm one of the people who keep liking and sharing.
Yes, I know. You're one of the most regular listeners. Yeah.
Keep them coming is all that I can say.
Yeah.
Chandana, I know you're a grade A artist on All India Radio, and you're a regular and much sought after performer on the Carnatic classical music circuit in India. But apart from that, you also interpret the Carnatic idiom and you use it to, sing different compositions from different genres. What prompted you to try that out?
So actually, when I started off, like you said, it was only mainly Carnatic that I was focusing on. Though there were genres like ghazals, for example, I was very fascinated by the genre, but I didn't really pursue it much. I used to compose some Kannada songs, poetry, and I used to just try and sing them like ghazals, but I never really explored or learned or anything. It was only Devarnamas and Carnatic. But later, when I moved to Bombay, this was in 2007. So I started collaborating with a lot of musicians, and as a member of a band, it was like I just wanted to, just to kind of break the monotony of just the same ragas and stuff like that. I would just, try and explore a little bit in a different style. Like I cannot really claim that I'm a Hindustani singer because I'm not trained in the genre. But yeah, I mean, I just used to sing an alap which was slightly different sounding than Carnatic, and so then that would be like, okay, that is adding a certain variety, and then after that it would be something else that I would try, So these kind of small little additions that I started making created a kind of a variety, and gradually I started expanding those horizons, and I started seriously like trying to understand what goes into a particular genre of music. It could be bhajans, it could be abhangs, it could be a little bit of natya sangeet, or I just kind of started listening to those genres of music, and whatever I could incorporate, I did incorporate. But then again, I would like to say that it is only an interpretation of those compositions and genre. I mean, into a genre that is comfortable for me. It's not really a Hindustani tradition that I follow, or it's not the bhajan sampradaya that I follow. It is a kind of somewhere it's a mix that happens, and it's my own interpretation of those compositions.
Can I ask you to sing just a couple of lines of your own interpretation? That would be really lovely for our viewers and listeners.
Yeah, sure. I think I'll sing Saware, jaiyo, which is a very, very popular bhajan. Jamuna kinare moraga, Jamuna kinare, Jamuna kinare mora gaon Saware, ai jaiyo Saware, ai jaiyo Saware, ai jaiyo Saware, ai jaiyo Jamuna kinare mora gaon Jamuna kinare mora gaon, something like that. Traditionally, this bhajan is sung by innumerable musicians actually, and each person has a different approach to it. But for me, it was somewhere blending some of the folk elements as well, and somewhere it was also bringing in the Carnatic elements as well. So that kind of, when I kind of like a song, it also undergoes a certain transformation in my head, and then I start kind of, presenting it with all these mixtures.
Lovely. That's really lovely. I remember that, you had said for a long time you had wanted to sing jazz, but you had never got around to it. Somehow you felt that you lacked the confidence. But when you did start singing fairly recently, what a sensational success you became. How did that happen?
Actually, I had not really explored any of the Western genres of music. It was only the Indian genres that I had been singing and practicing. Even if I did practice ghazals for some time, or even if I did practice the abhanga tradition and stuff like that. I've always felt that there was a very strong Indian accent, and even in my English, there was also a very strong retroflex. So the rs and the rs and all, they were actually, there is a certain way in which we South Indians pronounce those, right? So I think that was a very predominant thing, and I realized that it was a very significant aspect to the style of Western singing. Which I was not very comfortable with. But in 2013, I started listening to a lot of jazz compositions, and I was really very intrigued by the technique with which they were, presenting these compositions, especially the instrumental jazz compositions, with amazing dexterity, and also the way those swaras were moving. And for me, exploring that was very, very, I was obsessed with it, to be honest, for about 7 to 8 months continuously at a stretch. I was not doing anything else. I was only kind of listening to these compositions and just trying to decipher them and stuff like that. But however, I kept away from singing the songs with lyrics. So I only would interpret them as swaras, just as notes. And then I think I was still, though I was constantly working just by myself, I was trying to figure out how the vowel sounds were and everything. I was still not very confident about singing it in to anybody else. I'm still very shy. If somebody is watching, I still can't sing. I only sing into the camera. And now I'm fairly like I'm more comfortable with those words, in the sense that I know how the words are supposed to be thrown, and especially thrown musically. The vowel sounds become very important. And I mean, all my life I have not pronounced certain vowel sounds like that. I have had my own way of pronouncing them. I've had a very, regional influence on those words. And so then I gradually started figuring how to pronounce it. And I think now I'm at least, I know that I can work around things, and I know that sound can be produced if I work a little harder.
Dave Brubeck standard, it's such a eternal favorite, Take 5. And I know even the official Dave Brubeck page has shared your rendition. Apart from that, of course, you've sung many others. One of my favorites, My Funny Valentine, you've sung that.
Yeah.
So can I ask you to sing a couple of lines, either from Take 5 or My Funny Valentine, whichever you like?
Yeah, of course. I can sing Funny Valentine, but again, the Funny Valentine, I actually interpret it more like a ghazal.
Oh,
though the notes are around the main melody, the notes kind of move a little here and there, and in giving it an Indian approach. So, sa re ga re ga re, sa re ga re ga re, sa re ga ni da pa ma, ma ga re sa ni sa re ga ma pa da ni da pa ma, ga ma pa ma pa ma, ga ma pa ni ne ma, ga ma pa re sa ni ni da pa da ni, pa ma ni ga ga re sa ni da pa da ni sa re ga ma pa da ni da pa ma ga, ga re ga sa ni sa pa ni ni da pa ma re ma ma ga, ga re sa ni sa pa ni ni da pa ma pa re ma ga re sa ni sa pa re re, ga ma pa ga ma. So basically, the way it travels is like that. It kind of explores and goes through. It hits and goes a few ragas in the process. So that is how I interpret this composition, My Funny Valentine.
That was lovely, Chandana. Absolutely lovely. And it's such a easy and a lovely song, and you enjoy it. I think that's one of the reasons why your videos are a big hit, because it's very simple. You don't do any theatricals. It's just you and the music, and the camera is by the way. That's what everybody loves about your music. What about this new genre that you yourself are creating, Chandana, Marma? Tell us about it.
So Marma is actually not a genre, but it is more like it is a confluence of devotional literature from across the country, written by mostly the Bhakti poets and the Sufi poets and spiritual poets from across the country, actually. So it happened again in the year, I think 2012. Actually, I have been singing Dasa Sahitya right from when, obviously, because it is a part of the tradition. So I've been singing a lot of Purandara compositions, and I've been really so fascinated by Vachana Sahitya. And this kind of journey, I was in 2012, 11, I was presented with this task of translating 842 Uga Bhogas. Uga Bhogas are Kannada shlokas written by the Dasas of Karnataka. So I was asked to do this by my Guruji, Shri H.S. Sudhendra sir. So when that happened, it kind of opened a new door, because I had started exploring Dasa Sahitya like I had never done before. And every Uga Bhoga had to be researched because it had either a mythological reference, or it had a reference to a certain avatara, or it had a certain it was a question of some of the ritualistic practices. It was a questioning of blind superstitious beliefs. And so basically it was like a whole new world of so much of I was literally like, it was a moment of enlightenment for me, that Dasa Sahitya had so much to offer than what I used to think, which was only devotion, only bhakti in various forms. So when I started reading that, I felt that I wanted to sing this, outside of Karnataka. I was obviously in Bombay, and I wanted to present a composition. I used to think I'll probably sing this composition, give the meaning, or translate it into Hindi and sing so that people can understand. But then later, I just came across a book on Kabir, as in Kabir's poetry. And when I started reading and understanding it with my own limited knowledge of Hindi, I realized that all these things that I wanted to, whatever the Dasas had said, Kabir has also said. And then I started exploring certain other spiritual poets, and I was like, oh, they also say the same thing. Every elevated soul ultimately says the same thing, which is, there are many paths, but the ultimate way is to finally, shut your eyes and find that Lord within you. And how does that Lord manifest? That Lord manifests through your actions and through your speech, through your, whether you're kind, whether you choose to be kind or not. That is when the Lord manifests. You know that you have His grace when you can choose to be kind. When you have an option to be mean to people, you actually choose to be kind. And that, in that choice, is where you actually find the Lord, within you. So this kind of thing came across, and I said I wanted to choose one component each of different poets from across the country, and bring it all together, and also explore various facets of bhakti. Like there are innumerable, like in bhakti itself, there are many varieties of bhakti, as we can call it. Like there is something called as Guru Bhakti, or there is something called as complete surrender. There is Sankirtana Bhakti, and then there is something called Ninda Stuti, where you're literally chiding the Lord, and you're like, out of the desperation that you have of Him not coming and taking care of you, there is a little bit of a taunt that is thrown at the Lord, saying, as though you can't come and take care of me. Come on. It's like, somewhere there is a Sakhya Bhakti also, where there's a friendly kind of a devotion, the kind of devotion Uddhava and, Sudama had for Krishna, knowing that the Lord is somebody supreme, but still treating him as a friend. Something that Hanuman had for Rama, where, he knew that he's a superior being, but still he could treat him as a friend and assure him that, you don't worry, we will find Sita. That kind of, that I think that all those aspects of bhakti. And then, of course, Nirguni Bhakti, where you're completely saying that by saying that the Lord doesn't really reside in one particular place or one particular object or one particular scripture. You're saying that He is omnipresent. He is present everywhere. Because His presence is there everywhere, it cannot be just captured into one image or one idol or one book or one verse or a saying or a shloka. He is omnipresent. And in that, exploring Nirguni Bhakti. So all these kind of aspects, when I started, I wanted to kind of present it on one platform and give like a small capsule of what our tradition and our literature can offer. And also I wanted to explore them in genres of music that I was I was experimenting with, like little bit of bhajan and Sufi and the Qawwali tradition, the bhajan tradition, the Kriti tradition, the Ragam Tanam and Pallavi tradition. So basically these are all and the folk traditions also, little bit from the Baul music and little bit from Kolata, and this kind of things I wanted to explore. So that's how I kind of put together this whole concept of Marma.
Chandana, you also have a very unusual talent musically. You sing in polyrhythm cycles. Can you explain what it is, and can you just do like a tiny demo?
So Actually, it was something that is, it's the concept of avadhana, or just to be able to focus, just it loosely translates to be able to focus on something. So on being able to focus on one thing is usually what we do. But I think we also, I mean, human beings, we are at the same time, we are able to focus on multiple things at the same time. We have that gift. That gift in music translates to exploring various aspects. In fact, avadhana is a very, very, very popular concept of our tradition. Also, there used to be tests earlier, where a person used to sit for a test to be called an ashtavadhani, where he would be focusing on 8 different things parallelly at the same time. At the same time, there would be a shatavadhani. There would be a test which would be conducted by the scholars to call somebody a shatavadhani, which means he would be able to, focus on 100 different things at the same time. Like he's supposed to recite a verse, at the same time calculate a mathematical number, and then in between somebody will be throwing something at them, and they have to count how many have been thrown. So these are all different kinds of, avadhana is a concept which is predominant, but kind of fading off now in our tradition. But tala avadhana actually has come to be known as being able to focus on 2 rhythmic cycles, or sometimes more than 2 rhythmic cycles parallelly. And that was something I never thought I would even, I never even thought I could do that actually. But it was only about 5 years ago or something. I was watching a drummer, Horatio Hernandez. And I was watching him do like a polyrhythmic groove on his drums, where on the left hand he was playing something else on the right, and then there was something he was playing with the bass drum. And so I thought, I just wanted to translate that and see if it is possible. So it translated to Rupakatala and divisions of 5 and 7 in the right. So that's how I incorporated. It's difficult to put because I need to put the talam on my thighs, but it's almost like it's like tak dhina tak dhina tak on the left hand, and on the right hand it is that thing, that thing, that thing, that thing. So it's going like this. That thing, that thing, that thing, that thing. It is going in this way, and that is the first polyrhythm sequence that I actually. I can't really claim it as polyrhythm, because polyrhythms are much more complex also. There is a lot of, this is just like a tala groove that I created, and I practiced that, and when I was able to recite, I was very, very happy, then I tried with different other combinations. So another combination was to do 4 and 3. Another combination was to do 10 in multiples of. So basically take 5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A tala called Mishra Jhampa. And in the right hand, so this was basically 10 into 220 in this hand, and this is 4 into 520. So that is how they both come together. It's a little difficult to display that now, but so what happens is the total count of the cycles of the tala comes to 20. And I was just working on all these, and take 5 is something that I had learned much before. And when I started working on this tala cycle, I felt that take 5 is something that will be very interesting to groove with it. Though take 5 originally has a different groove, tadhim, 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 tadhim. That is the way it grooves in 5. But here it is like tak, tak, kita, tak, tak, kita. So it has a different groove. So I thought, let me, just see if that melody sits on this groove, and it sat beautifully. So I thought I'll just, do a recording of that. That was something that a lot of people kind of enjoyed. And then I also worked on, 14 and 7. So this hand is 14 counts, and this is like, 2 cycles of this. So this is in the second speed, and you can almost think of it as the second speed, and this is in the first speed and stuff like that. So those are things that I keep working on. And I mean, I know that there are tala avadhanas which are much more complex, and there are a lot of musicians who do that. They this will have a total count of, so 2 cycles of this will come to 1 cycle of this. It's like very, very complicated stuff. I've not still ventured into that. I only focus on the grooves, and because for me it is also important that it is at some point people are also grooving with it. It shouldn't be too complicated that it just goes bouncers and then nobody is with you when you're performing. You're alone. You're not able to take people with you in that journey.
Chandana, I know you're a part of 3 bands. One of them is an all-woman band, and you've sung for films, and you also composed for films. What's next on your agenda?
There is this company called Vox Guru, which is headed by Pratibha Sarathi. And so we spoke during the lockdown, and she approached and she said if I would be interested to do like a series of small lesson modules presented in small pockets for advanced lessons, like learning a raga, for example, learning all aspects of a particular raga. So this is a course called World of Ragas on Vox Guru, which I worked on, and now it is going to be aired in the next 1 month or so. It's going to be launched. The other one is also that I've worked on another app which is going to be on Giridhar Udupa's foundation, which is called Udupa Foundation. And then there are some lessons that I've been working on, but I've also been working on so I have always wanted to bring out an album with the content of Marma, where so the first when I started working on Marma, the idea was to bring it out as an album, not more as a concert, live concert set. But eventually it became a live set because a lot of live concerts happened. And so I'm also trying to record some of the material of Marma, and I intend to bring out an album sometime soon. So these are some of the projects that are happening now.
And Little Bird told me that you're also working on your own YouTube show. What is that going to be about?
Actually, I have always been fascinated about, again, when my study of spiritual poets began, it was so fascinating to see how some of the women poets wrote. And also the women poets, some of them who belong to very, very low castes and had experienced a lot of oppression. And the poetry that emerged from, in spite of being so oppressed and in spite of being so, so ill-treated per se, the poetry was never bitter. The poetry was that of enlightenment, where they could surpass the bitterness and they could convey and they could take all of that bitterness into a positive thing, and they were able to surpass all that, and they could be enlightened because of that hurt or because of that pain. That was so beautiful for me to, kind of experience and read, especially Soirabai's poetry in Avagharanga Ekasala. So Soirabai belonged to a Dalit community. She was Choka Mila's wife. And they were obviously not allowed into the temples because they belonged to the Dalit community. But when she writes the poetry, she says, why is it that there is a need at all to actually go and look at the idol? Because when you actually look into the idol, the power that the Lord has is he can nullify everything. He can nullify the one who is viewing, the one who is viewed. The whole process of viewing, everything becomes one. So that is the greatness that the power of the Lord is, which surpasses all these things, whether you are allowed into the temple, whether you're not allowed, whether somebody who belongs to superior caste asks you not to, so that kind of revelations were very, very, so to cut the long story short, I wanted to bring together, poetry by all these different women poets, which is also one of the, you had given me the opportunity to actually present this at Under the Raintree Festival. And that's also where the part of the research actually began with respect to Akka Mahadevi. And so I kind of put some of the material together, and now I intend to bring it out on my YouTube channel. I would also like to, present it as small episodes or, small series like that.
I feel so happy hearing this, that the festival actually served the purpose of inspiring
Yes,
the artists,
of
you know.
course. Yes.
And
Yeah.
before we end, I'm going to just ask you again, sing the song. You were quoting this woman poet, and you really liked her
Yeah.
song, which you narrated
Yeah.
so beautifully, this whole spiritual experience. Can you sing a
Yeah.
couple of lines?
Yes, of course. Sure. पाहते पाहणे गेले दुरी भाणे चोकियाची महारी अवघा रंग एक झाला 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 रंगी रंगला श्रीरंग अवघा रंग एक झाला अवघा रंग एक झाला. That's a part of.
Beautiful, Chandana. Thank you so much for sharing your views and this beautiful music, mesmerizing experience. Thank you so much. And look forward to seeing you on social media, seeing your weekly updates with new music, and all the best for your YouTube show.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Sandhya ji. It was really an honor talking to you and such a pleasure always talking to you. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Do subscribe to the Raintree Media channel on YouTube. Like, comment and share the videos.